Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 4, our final week of the course. During this week, we're going to be taking a look at planning diverse activities that are connected to your high quality, diverse book choices for story time. So it's really going to refine and extend everything that we discussed in our last session. So let's take a look now at our week 4 at a glance. So you'll see that you're going to be reading a white paper put out by ALSC on the importance of diversity in library programs and material collections for children. We're going to have another reading from the Office of Head Start on selecting and using culturally responsive children's books and a reading as well about the 6 myths about diversity in early childhood story times and how we can read diverse books in our library story times now. So that will lead us to the assignment for week 4, which is going to be a discussion board on that white paper that you're reading, focusing on one aspect of it that we'll be talking about today. So there are some additional resources there, and you will see that there's a guide to writing an annotated bibliography because that will be our final project for the course. So we'll be taking a look at that in more depth. We looked at it last time as well. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and prepare to launch into our content for this week. Okay, so if we take a look at this slide on cultural literacy, we know that studies indicate that by preschool age, young children already are revealing stereotypes and negative behaviors towards those that they perceive as different. So, offering programs that highlight cultural and diverse practices provides opportunities for children to develop an awareness of their own culture and other cultures as well. The opportunity to interact with other individuals from diverse cultures. And by doing that, we're hoping to show children how to be accepting of cultures that are different from their own. So, very important consideration for us. And you know that last time we talked about that mirrors and windows analogy. So we know that children's programs, activities, and books serve as a mirror to view themselves in their own culture, as well as a window in which they see other people and cultures. And we explored that analogy a bit in the last class, and we're going to be talking about it more in this one. So we know that when children do not see their culture represented, they don't feel that their culture is valued. And if children are consistently exposed to books, materials, and activities that negatively represent their culture, then they will be likely to develop a poor sense of self based on those negative stereotypes. And they will also likely develop a poor sense of the other culture if those negative stereotypes have been conveyed to them as well. So, this is what we want to definitely avoid. And that's why it's so important that we offer authentic, positive, and accurate representations of cultures in our story times. So, in your readings this week, I had mentioned that ALSC white paper, and you're going to be reading about the important role of diversity in library programs for children there. And the author, Jamie Nadeau, addresses the 5 F's of cultural diversity. And these 5 things are things that are generally thought of and addressed during programs that focus on cultures. So, foods, festivals, folklore, fashion, famous people. And it's important for these 5 areas to be accurately depicted and not based on stereotypes. It's important to select materials that include books that are written and illustrated by people either from the culture itself or with a very deep understanding and experience of that culture. So, librarians should identify outdated content and make sure that stereotypes are not a part of the materials, books, and other activities that are planned when we're using that 5Fs approach. And finally, while we want to do that well, and these are the things to keep in mind in order to do that, we also want to infuse our programs with the daily interactions of people within a culture, not just focusing on these 5Fs. So let's take a look at some other ways for us to think about that. So, as much as possible when planning your storytime programs, we want them to include culturally responsive experiences. And this list represents important things to keep in mind. So, in looking over this list, remember that you always want the children and families to feel welcomed and valued in your story times. And by taking all of these pieces into consideration, you will achieve that goal. So remember, when we embed cultural diversity within our programs, we are facilitating those window and mirror experiences that will allow all children to feel valued and to learn about other cultures and lifestyles different from their own. We want to provide many such opportunities to avoid creating stereotypes about a particular culture. And remember, if a child is only introduced to books about his culture during a specific time each year, then he may feel that his culture is not important. So while we all have those specific months and different times when we might emphasize a culture, we really want it to be embedded within and throughout our programs. So, here are just some ways we can weave diverse activities throughout our programs throughout the year. So, including songs and games, puppets, props, pictures, anything that keeps it fun, engaging, and meaningful for our families, and hopefully involving them in sharing about their culture. These are important ways for us to weave those activities within and throughout our programs. So, this is the assignment that I had mentioned about the discussion boards. So, after reading that ALSC white paper, post your thoughts on the considerations of primarily focusing on the 5Fs of culture as defined by the author, Jamie Nadeau. In your post, explain how your expanded view of the 5Fs might impact the way you choose books and plan program activities moving forward. So this assignment, as with many of our discussion board assignments, is going to be worth 6 points. Then I did want to take another look here at our final assignment. So you will be creating those two annotated bibliographies of picture books that are appropriate to use in two different storytime programs. One list of 5 books for infants and toddlers, and another for 5 books for preschoolers, ages 3 to 5. So the assignment itself will be worth 20 points total, 10 for each bibliography, and each annotation should include what's listed here on the slide. So you may find that it's easiest to recreate those 5 categories and then list your responses underneath that to make sure that you include everything. So I hope that you enjoy this assignment. Maybe you've started working on it already, but you are going to have an additional week beyond this week in order to get everything completed and uploaded. It can either be a Word document or a PDF. You'll see that when you go to upload your final submission. And remember that you will be able to access one another. So this is going to give you kind of a wealth of materials based on our course content that you may be able to include in your storytime programs. So, and another thing I wanted to point out is that when you've completed all of your assignments, there is an end of the course survey that Library Juice Academy would like you to complete. So we'd appreciate it if you'd take the time to share your thoughts about the course. I hope that you have learned a lot during our class lectures from all the various readings and websites and book lists and everything that you've explored, and from one another as well. So, I've really enjoyed working with you throughout this course, and I hope that you all had a great experience with it as well. Thank you.